Hello, you lovely cups. It is Dragon Lord here, back again with a reboot of an older series. What if Naofumi had haki? Now, this is gonna be a reboot, obviously. Now, this is basically just a recap, kind of rebootish, of the first three parts. So, there will be two parts today and the day after tomorrow, which is gonna be this What If. Now, it's essentially the same as what it was before, just a few things have changed. It's been a bit more cleaned up compared to what it was beforehand. And compared to what the What If was last time, this time it has a few little more details in it, and it has a bit more story, especially part 2. Part 2 is like 10 minutes longer, or even 20 minutes longer than what it was before, so yeah, definitely look out for that. Part 3 will just be completely new story compared to what Part 3 was before, because Part 3 is taking place after Part 3 in the original one. So yeah, Part 1 and 2 will technically be just recap and reboot parts, just to let you guys know. Anyway, with that out of the way, do let me know if you guys are hyped to get this series back. If you comment the hashtag that's on the screen down below, I'll know that you like it. Don't comment it like a billion times like last time. That's not needed. Just one comment saying hashtag #BuildBro would be enough. Anyway, do like and subscribe if you're new around here and if you like this type of content. With that out of the way, let's get into it.
Yeah, you better listen. I'm bringing heat. You'll be a fan when I start rapping. Way I'll have your fucking head spinning. I'm known as spit vicious. Release bombs, they go tick tick. Boom, you blown me that head missing. I'm a phenomenon. Stacking cheese like it's Parmesan. 8 different flows, call me Octomom. I'm moving fast like the Autobahn. And I'm independent, so I'm not your fucking starving like it's Ramadan. Sick, twisted, gifted. Can't copy, printed. Can't hold me down. I shape shift, I'm liquid. I killed this beat, I might get convicted. They know how I move.
We find ourselves in Japan, near a house. Birds would be chirping as we find ourselves in a room. Quiet already, I'm awake, a man said, sitting up straight in his bed. After taking a few seconds, he would put his legs out of the bed and stand up. Just another day to waste away, the man said, yawning in the process. He would walk towards the bathroom and look in the mirror. Before him in the mirror stood a pretty average-looking man, with black hair and green eyes. Hello, me, the man said before starting to brush his teeth. He would finish up quickly and dress up, the expression on his face still being that of sadness. After putting on his clothes, he sat down in his chair, booting up his computer to play a game he had been playing for a while now. It looked pretty average, basically just your standard MMORPG, but for some reason the man was hooked on it. He kept playing day in and day out, but for no real reason. After about an hour of playing, he decided to get up. He felt the urge to read, so he decided to go through his collection of books. I've read all of these already, he would say disappointedly. He would put on his favorite hoodie and exit his room. Walking through the hall of his house, he would pass by an open door. It was the door leading to his younger brother's room. Guess I might as well, the man said before entering his brother's room. Hey bro, do you need anything? I'm heading to go get some books, the man said, waiting for a response. Well, I don't really need anything, but if you could pick up some snacks for me, that would be cool, the teen would say, pausing his game. Alright, snacks it is, I'm on it, the man would say, waving goodbye to his brother before exiting the room. Thanks, Naofumi, the younger brother would say, resuming his game. Naofumi didn't reply to anything, though, and just exited his house. My name is Naofumi Iwatani, the man said, starting an inner dialogue with himself for no real reason. When I was younger, my grandfather would tell me stories. Stories about pirates traveling the seas. Apparently there was once this great pirate called Monkey D. Luffy or whatever, who went on a massive journey across the world. My grandmother told me a lot about him. Because we are related to the great pirate, she would always tell me stories about his special abilities, which tended to interest me a lot. One of his powers was called haki, which was really just a general term for a few different powers. I remember when I was younger I would always try to use these so-called powers, but I couldn't, and over the years I became more and more pessimistic about it. Naofumi would say, reaching his destination, which would make him stop having his inner dialogue. He entered the library as he went towards the fantasy section. He sure loved his fantasy. As he was going through the books, he found one that was standing out, a book with a red cover. He would grab it and start reading. The story would go as follows. There was once 4 great heroes, the bow, the sword, the spear, and the shield. These 4 legendary heroes would need to fight the waves of catastrophe to save their world. Naofumi would go through the pages, finding the story quite interesting. He would even come out to a page of a princess who he thought looked a bit bitchy. He would continue going through the pages, eventually coming out on a blank page. Did they forget to finish the book? Naofumi would think, confused. Why the book ended on a blank page? All of a sudden, the book would glow as the pages started turning. Naofumi would slowly lose consciousness as he would feel a kind of falling sensation. Before he knew it, he would wake up on a stone floor in a pretty dark room. Ugh, he would groan, getting up and taking a second to take in his surroundings. "Oh, brave and mighty heroes, would you please save our world?" a priest would say, putting his hands together in a praying motion. What happened?" Naofumi would say out loud, as the priest just went on and pleaded for help. "Y'all help," Naofumi tried to speak, but got cut off by a guy with a sword. "Who the hell are you to ask us for help?" a guy in a blue jumpsuit would say. Naofumi remarked that the guy looked overly excited for some reason. Furthermore, there were 2 others there as well, a guy with a spear and a guy with a bow. Naofumi would look down to find a shield attached to his arm. He kind of spaced out while the others talked. He was so confused about what was going on. He would say to himself as he noticed an icon in the bottom right of his vision. He tried focusing on it as it popped up a menu. "This ain't preferable," he would say out loud by accident. The 3 others would stop arguing with the priest as they would turn to face Naofumi. "Oh, sorry there, bud. Didn't see you. What's wrong?" a tall man would say. He looked above average and had a long blonde hairstyle with orange eyes. Well, it's just that we're level 1, and these stats aren't looking too high," Naofumi would answer, trying to answer the man's question as best as he could. "Wait, how did you check your stats?" the tall man would say. Try focusing in the bottom right of your vision. There should be an icon. If you focus on it, it should pop up your menu." The 3 heroes would proceed by doing this, as they would all be bummed out that their weapons aren't max yet. "Oh, brave heroes, all your questions will be answered by the king. If you'd please follow us," the priest would say, gesturing towards the exit. "Guess I'll hear you guys out," Naofumi would say, starting his walk. The 3 others would follow him. They ended up in a big room, and Naofumi commented on how the people were looking at them. They would arrive before the king, who would start speaking. "So you young men are the heroes of legend. This is the land of Melremark, and I am her king, Altcray Melremark the 32nd. Welcome, brave heroes. Please, identify yourselves," the king would say. The 3 heroes looked at Naofumi as if they wanted him to go first. "All right then. My name is Naofumi Iwatani. I'm 20 years old and a college student." Shortly after, the 3 other heroes would introduce themselves as well. Naofumi came to figure out their names. The boy with the sword being Renamaki, the kid with the bow would be Itsuki Kawasumi, and lastly, the man with the spear would be Moriyasu Itamura. The king would explain everything about the waves and all that. Naofumi wouldn't be interested, as he already knew most of it from the book. After the explanation, the 3 heroes would want to know what would happen after they beat all the waves. The king's assistant would say that they would get the most handsome rewards after beating all of the waves. The 3 heroes would say that they will work with the king, but that they will not be tamed or controlled by them. The king would ask the heroes to check their statuses, but before he could continue, Moriyasu would say, "We already have." This would surprise the king. "You all learn rather quickly," the king would say. Well, it's because of Naofumi. He saw it the moment we got in here, Itsuki would add on. The king would make a mental note of this. The status magic gets explained a bit further to the heroes. Itsuki would then speak up and say that they could get starter equipment, and once they're ready, they would be able to team up. The advisor would speak up, however, saying, "That won't be possible." "Why is that?" Itsuki would ask. "It is said that because of their very nature, the legendary weapons won't be able to grow if the heroes stick together," the advisor would say. "We will arrange some party members for you tomorrow, but please do get some rest," the advisor would finish. A maid would walk up to the heroes, gesturing at them to follow her. She would escort them to the dining hall, and after they finished eating, they would be escorted to their sleeping quarters. In their room, Itsuki would start talking about how this world was resembling a game that he would play on his console. This would spur an argument about the different types of games. Moriyasu sees this world as a game called Emerald Online. Itsuki sees it as a console game called Dimension Web, and Ren would call them both wrong, saying that this world resembles a VR MMO called Brave Star Online. Moriyasu would stand up and the four heroes would start talking about their worlds, comparing common information. After some talking, they come to a conclusion that they're all from different versions of Japan. So I guess that settles that. Still, we should probably take this seriously. This world is real, it's not like some game, Naofumi would say. In that instant, he would feel something and quickly turn around, facing the door. "Is everything alright, Naofumi?" Moriyasu asked. "Oh, it's, nothing. It's just I have some pretty sharp senses and I thought I heard someone," Naofumi would reply. The heroes would end their discussion and head to bed. The next day, the heroes would be escorted back into the throne room, where they would see a bunch of adventurers lined up. "Good morning, brave heroes. As you can see, we have gathered you the bravest and strongest adventurers in our lands, to aid you along your adventure," the king would say. The heroes would be lined up. As the king would say, "You may start." Upon hearing those words, the adventurers would start moving towards the heroes as they would start lining up behind them. After all was said and done, Naofumi would have 3 people behind him. He would have a tall, buff man behind him that was holding a double-bladed axe. He would also have a pale-looking guy with white hair that was holding a book. And lastly, he would have a girl in his party that would have red hair and green eyes. Naofumi found her attractive but felt this uneasy sensation around her. Not much was said after the choosing of the parties, and the heroes were given their silver. Each received 600 silvers as they all part their own ways. Shortly after, Naofumi and his party would introduce themselves. "Well, I am Naofumi Iwatani, and I'll be in your care," Naofumi would say. The big man with his dual-bladed axe would come up first and introduce himself. "My name is Frederick, and I'm pleased to meet you, shield hero." The big guy would say. "Guess I'm next. My name is Vlad," the skinny white-haired guy would say. "That makes me last. My name is Malty S. Melremark, but you may call me mine, Sir Shield Hero," the girl would say. "Alright, well I guess that settles that. We should probably get some starter gear. Any suggestions?" Naofumi asked. "I know a great shop," mine would say before the others could talk. They all end up following her to a shop. While walking, they all share some knowledge between each other. Upon entering the shop, Naofumi is amazed by the weapons and armor hanging on the wall. "Well, good day. Welcome to my shop," a big bald man with a beard would say. "Ah, good day. Yeah, we are searching for some armor for me and a few better weapons for them," Naofumi would say, approaching the counter. "Well, what is your budget?" the smith would ask. "About 250 silvers," Naofumi would answer, confusing the others. The smith would go out back as Naofumi's party members gathered up. "Sir, we really don't need anything right now. We should prioritize you first, sir," Vlad and Frederick would say. Mine not saying anything because she does want an upgrade. "Oh no, it's fine. I can only use a shield anyway. I read through the help menu and it says I can't use any other weapons, so I might as well just power level up with this shield, right? So I'll need to rely on you all," Naofumi would say with a smile, making the 2 adventurers happy. They get their basic upgrades and decide to head out to the field to do some grinding. Naofumi only got a minor upgrade, but it would be fine for the moment. Vlad remarked that it made him look like a mountain bandit. At the field, they would start fighting the balloons, with Vlad and Frederick actually helping. Mine would kind of just watch. They would get a bit of grinding done. After a few hours, they would gather the resources and start feeding it to Naofumi's shield. While he was powering up his shield, he realized that there was another tab, but it was in Japanese. It said haki. Naofumi, knowing what this meant, opened the tab. The second he did, he felt different, like a new energy surged through his body. He decided that it would be a good note to leave on. They returned to the city with Naofumi reaching level 6. They went to their inn and rented a few rooms. Naofumi went to bed early that night, not drinking any wine or alcohol, Vlad and Frederick following in his example. That night, Naofumi wouldn't be able to sleep, as he woke up both Vlad and Frederick. The two of them were confused, but Naofumi would just tell them to follow him. They went out to the field again, passing by Ren on the way and having a small chat with him. They would arrive at the field. "Alright, you two, I want to test something out. You both stay back, alright?" Naofumi would say. His two companions complied. He would switch his shield to a shield he had gotten at the smith. It was a shield for level 5 adventurers. It added a +6 defense buff and had a holy attributes skill, which he thought was pretty neat. An orange balloon would come out, and Naofumi would start fighting it, beating it after 20 strikes. "Was that all you wanted to test?" Vlad would ask, curious about what they were doing out here. "No, that's not all that I wanted to test, but this is," Naofumi would say, upon which his shield would be engulfed in a blacking purple color. "What's that?" Frederick and Vlad would ask. "It's called armament haki," Naofumi would answer. A balloon would hop towards him as it would jump at him. Naofumi would hit it 5 times, killing it after the 5th blow. His strength had gone up. His attack went from 1 and had multiplied by 2, making his total attack 2. And now that his attack was above 1, he didn't have the stupid mischance that he had before, making each one of his attacks actually do damage. His defense would also multiply by 3. "I don't remember it being this strong," Naofumi would say out loud, which would make Vlad come out and say, "Maybe because of the legendary weapon, your ability might have been boosted." "Maybe. Let's continue," Naofumi would say as they continued grinding through the night, even going to the forest to fight some higher level monsters. At the end of it, Naofumi would be level 13, with both Vlad and Frederick being at 22. They would return to the city, but upon entering through the gates, Naofumi would get surrounded by the guards, as they would say, "Shield hero, you are under arrest." "What?" Naofumi would say, panicked and confused. "What is going on here?" Vlad would ask. "The shield hero has been charged with sexual assault and will have to come with us," one of the guards says. "That's impossible. We have been with Naofumi-sama the entire time. There is no way he could have done anything," Frederick would say. It's fine. Let's hear them out first," Naofumi says, following the guards. They all start following the guards. They arrive at the castle after a little while. Upon entering the castle, Naofumi's party members get cut off. "Only the shield hero may go inside. Party members must wait outside," one of the guards says, as he and the second guard cross their spears, allowing no further entry. Frederick was about to fight them, but Naofumi signals at them to just wait outside. Naofumi gets escorted inside as he arrives at the throne room. Upon entering, Naofumi sees the other heroes, as he wants to greet them but gets cut off by the king. "Shield hero," the king would say, giving Naofumi a stare before continuing. "It appears that you have soiled the title of hero by committing a severe crime." "Wait, what are you talking about?" Naofumi would say, cutting off the king. "It appears that you are so drunk you can't even remember what you did. Go on, Mine. Tell us what happened," the king would say shortly after Mine would come out from behind Moriyasu. Naofumi only just realized that she was hiding behind him. She would start shaking, which would worry Naofumi. "Mine, are you alright?" Naofumi would say, worried about his party member. "Silence, you cretin!" the king would say, making Naofumi shut up. "Go on, Mine." The king would gesture at his daughter to speak up. "Well, you see, yesterday at night, the shield hero broke into my room and forced his way onto me. He reeked of alcohol. Luckily I escaped, and as I ran away I luckily found Moriyasu-sama," she would say. "There you have it. Are you satisfied now, you criminal?" The king would ask. Wait, hold on a minute. I never did such a thing, Naofumi would say, trying to defend himself. Bring it out, the king would say, as one of the knights would come out and hold what appeared to be lingerie, which would make mine hide behind Moriyasu. This was found in your room, Sir Shield Hero, the king would say. I have no idea how that got there in the first place, Naofumi would say. Silence! Even in the face of overwhelming truth, you try to lie. Disgusting behavior for a hero. It wasn't me, I swear. Silence! Don't embarrass yourself any further, the king would say, cutting Naofumi off again. Just let me finish, Naofumi tried to say. We don't need to hear the words of a criminal. As for how we will deal with you, the king would try to say. Shut the hell up and let me speak! Naofumi would scream, releasing a sort of energy that stunned most of the people in the room. Will you listen now, for crying out loud? It couldn't have been me. I wasn't in the tavern all night, Naofumi finally got to say. The king, still in shock of the mental burst that happened, would finally speak up. What do you mean? Me and my 2 party members were out fighting monsters the entire night, Naofumi would answer. Don't believe me? Ask Ren. He saw us leave for the fields. Is this true, sword hero? The king asked, while looking at Ren. Yes, it is, Ren would answer. Still, that doesn't mean that you couldn't have gotten back into the city and done it, the king would say. Then ask my party members. They will tell you the truth, Naofumi said confidently. So it will be, the king said while waving at one of his henchmen to go and ask Naofumi's party members. After a while, the henchman would return. So what did they say? The king would ask. It seems to be that what the shield hero is saying is true. They were out hunting monsters all night. We even asked the guards who were guarding the gate, and they confirmed it. The henchman would say. It appears that what you have said is true. Still, I do not believe my daughter would lie to me, the king would say while looking at his daughter. It must have been an impostor then, Moriyasu would say, trying to find an answer for everything that was happening. That could be the case, Ren would add on top. But why frame the shield hero? Itsuki would ask. I see you guys don't know yet, huh? Naofumi would say, getting the attention of the heroes. What do you mean? Moriyasu asked. This country's religion worships the 3 heroes. The bow, the sword, and the spear. But they don't worship the shield at all. In fact, in some places the shield gets kind of satanized, and they see him as a devil. It was probably those people who orchestrated this, Naofumi would say. Wait, is that true? Itsuki would ask, looking at the king. Yes, it's true. The shield doesn't get worshipped in Melremark, the king would say, not shaken by this in the slightest. Well, I have wasted enough time here. Look, I don't care about your religions, politics, or whatever, Naofumi would say. I'm simply here to help fend off the waves, so I'll be doing my job. Also, mine, I don't know what happened, if you were lying or an imposter did this to you, but you're out of my party. I feel malicious intent coming from you, and I don't like it, Naofumi would say, trying to exit the throne room. Halt! I appreciate your devotion to help our kingdom, but word has already spread of your misdeeds. You shall be branded a criminal in Melremark, the king would say. But we shall inform the public of your misunderstanding as soon as we can, but be prepared for discrimination. Naofumi wouldn't say anything to this and just walked out. Wasn't that kind of unfair? Itsuki would ask the other 2 heroes. Yeah, he got branded a criminal without committing any crimes, Ren would add on top. I mean, there must be a reason why the imposter did what he did, right? Moriyasu asked. We'll have to find that out by ourselves, I guess, Ren said, leaving the room shortly after, Itsuki following. With Moriyasu staying behind and inviting Mine to his party, being the horn dog he is. Naofumi would exit the castle, meeting up with his party members shortly after. I'm guessing you guys are well aware of what they accused me of, Naofumi would ask them. Yes, we are aware. How could they lie like that? Frederick would say, frustrated at the situation. I mean, I told you all of this yesterday, that this could happen, Vlad added on top of the conversation. That is true. Let's just get some rest. I'm beat, Naofumi would say. He was tired from being awake all night. I can agree. I could use some rest, Frederick would say, while Vlad would just nod in accordance. They made their way back to the inn that they were staying at, and upon entering his room, Naofumi realized that most of his stuff had been stolen. He was too tired to actually care, and they still had their most important gear on them, so they should have been fine for the time being. After sleeping for a few hours, their party would go get some lunch. While walking through the streets, the people would give Naofumi stares. Naofumi and his party would decide to ignore them and move on. They arrived at a restaurant, and when they entered, they would see Ren and his party. They decided to go sit next to them and start talking with them. "So anyway, what have you guys been up to?" Naofumi asked. Before anybody could answer, Ren would speak up. Just the usual. Leveling, you know how it is. By the way, Naofumi, what was that ability you used in the throne room? He'd say, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Naofumi asked. "Well, when you screamed that they should just shut up and listen, you kind of released like this kind of energy. I don't know, it was weird. It made me feel paralyzed for a second." Upon hearing that, Naofumi opened his status, and upon doing so, a new window popped up saying haki proficiency calculations complete. A level increased to 10. "Interesting," Naofumi would say. "What is it?" Ren would ask. "Well, the world that I come from has these powers, and one of the common powers people shared is called haki. When I came to this world, it kind of transferred over, but the shield changed it how it worked a bit. And there seems to be a proficiency level, and when it levels up, it boosts my stats a bit," Naofumi would say. Ren would look super confused. "Well, how does it work?" "Well, it gave me 2 abilities before. One that lets me predict targets' movements, kind of. It really just enhances my 6th sense. And also lets me feel things like emotions and all that. The other is a kind of reinforcement ability. But it appears I have unlocked a rare one, being the Conqueror's Haki, which is basically just the kind of energy I can use to make people with a weaker will to mine yield." "I see, well that sounds kind of like a cheat," Ren would say. "Well, I might be able to teach this to others, but I need to experiment further before that can happen," Naofumi would say, piquing Ren's interest. "Anyway, this reinforcement that you are talking about, what does it do?" Ren would ask curiously. Naofumi would take a second, pondering whether or not he should actually say what it does. "How about I tell you if you pay for our dinner?" Naofumi says with a grin on his face. "Alright, that's easy enough," Ren answers, agreeing to Naofumi's terms. "Well, basically, I can create a kind of armor anywhere on my body, but I've come to a revelation. If I use the armor on my shield, my stats will get a multiplier, my 3 main stats at least." "By how much?" Ren would ask. "Yesterday it was about 3 times, making my defense in magic about 120 and my physical defense somewhere in the 100s. And that was with my stats at level 6. Naofumi would say. Ren's jaw would drop when he heard this. "That's like an actual cheat," he would say. "My attack will also go up, but since I'm basically bound at 1 attack, I will only do 2 damage at most." "Well, now that my proficiency has gone up, I'd say it goes 3. "So what's your defense like with your new proficiency level?" Ren would ask curiously. "Well, let's see." Naofumi would say, extending his arm that had his shield on it, as his shield turned to a blackish purple. Naofumi would open his status, as his physical defense would be over 300, with his magical defense falling a bit short, being a bit over 280. He'd say these numbers to Ren, who was just stunned at this. "Well, yeah, it's strong, but my damage sucks, so I'm basically all defense. Also, it looks like most of the EXP I got from this haki efficiency was probably innate talent. It seems like it was level 9 yesterday, and well, it got to level 10, which took an entire night. And it seems that every 10 levels it increases in strength, but I don't know how long I'm gonna need to grind to get to level 20. Naofumi would say, going on a bit of a rant. "Still, with your defense, you'd be able to tank anything," Ren would say, as he kinda stopped listening after Naofumi complained about his little damage. "That is true," Naofumi would say. The party members who were listening in this were just kind of sitting there in utter disbelief of what they just heard. "Anyway, what level are you now?" Naofumi asked. 8, Ren would say confidently. "Oh, can I recommend a good leveling spot for you then?" Naofumi would say. "Sure, go ahead," Ren would say, pulling out a map. "I'd say about here," Naofumi would say, pointing at a part on the map near the woods. "We used that spot yesterday to farm. It's pretty good, but if you're alone it can be dangerous, but luckily you have a big party. The XP there is also pretty good," Naofumi would say. Well, that's where we are gonna go then. Thanks for the info, Naofumi, Ren would say. No problem. Naofumi and his party would finish their food while talking a bit more to Ren and his party, and they seemed to get along well. After finishing, they say their goodbyes and part ways. Well, anyway, guys, that is where I'm gonna stop part 1 of the reboot and slash recap of this series. If you guys want part 2, which is also a recap, you're not really gonna have to get a like goal. I'm gonna release it in 2 days anyway, but I do want to see 20 likes at least on this video. I know that I should continue this series, because, well, it's pointless to do it otherwise, right? Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, if you're new around here, do like and subscribe. The Discord, you guys already know about that. I announced that it's been deleted. I'm remaking it separately, and I'll have a video announcing when that is gonna be up for the people to join. With that out of the way, there's not really much to say. Like and subscribe if you're new around here. I think I already said that. And with that out of the way, I'll see you guys, lovely cubs, in the next video. My name is the Dragon Lord, and I'm signing out.
Tell me a story.
There was once a pale man with dark hair who was very lonely.
Why was it lonely?
All things must meet this man, so they shunned him.
Did he chase them all?
He took an axe and split himself in two, right down the middle.
So he would always have a friend.
So he would always have